Momo Ayase reaches her breaking point when her boyfriend demands money for their date and then shamelessly suggests they book a hotel room. Furious, she attempts to kick him, leading to their immediate breakup. Heartbroken, she vents to her friends, who question what she ever saw in him. Momo admits she was only drawn to him because he resembled her favorite actor Ken Takakura, a reason her friends find ridiculous. Wandering the school halls, lost in thought, Momo notices a male student being bullied in a classroom. Without hesitation, she takes a seat at his desk, shooting the tormentors a sharp glare until they back off. As she leaves, the boy catches up to her, excitedly rambling about aliens and UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Already in a foul mood, Momo grows irritated by his endless chatter. Though she has no intention of befriending him, she apologizes upon realizing she hurt his feelings and shares that she believes in ghosts, not aliens. The boy smirks in disbelief, prompting Momo to defend her stance by mentioning that her grandmother is a spirit medium. This sparks a heated debate, ultimately leading to a challenge to prove whether ghosts or UFOs are real. Late that night, Momo and the boy whom she dubs occult kun split up to investigate their respective claims. She heads to Nagi Hospital, rumored to have alien sightings, while occult kun goes to a tunnel known for ghostly activity. Over the phone, Momo opens up about her resentment toward her grandmother, recalling how she was bullied after being forced to perform a public ritual. She reveals that her real anger wasn't toward the bullying itself, but toward the boy she liked at the time, who had mocked her grandmother. Over time, however, she came to appreciate her grandmother's role and accepted her spiritual heritage. Meanwhile, occult kun encounters a grotesque spirit known as Turbo Granny, who creepily offers him a bizarre deal in exchange for performing fellatio. As horrified, he flees, refusing to acknowledge the ghost's existence. And Momo warns him that Turbo Granny is notorious for cursing anyone she outraces. His terrified screams confirm his worst fears as the entity gains on him. Alarmed, Momo rushes to help, but before she can act, she is paralyzed with fear at the sight of 3 eerie figures blocking her path. And before she can escape, they seize her. She regains consciousness strapped to a chair in her underwear. Chill, the captors reveal themselves as the Serpos extraterrestrials attempting to replicate human reproductive abilities. One of them unveils a mechanical device attached to its body, intending to forcibly extract her reproductive organs. Momo fights against her restraints, but the Serpo uses psychokinesis to induce an unnatural state of arousal. Just as it prepares to proceed, her ringing phone distracts the aliens, allowing Turbo Granny to suddenly appear and bite off the device. To Momo's shock, the ghost is actually a cult kun now possessed. The Serpos try to subdue him, but Turbo Granny viciously tears apart their mechanical implants. However, they soon pin a cult kun using psychokinesis. In a desperate plea, he offers himself in Momo's place, revealing that his fascination with aliens stems from his loneliness until he met her. The Serpos reject his offer and continue to manipulate Momo's body against her will. Amid the struggle, Momo remembers her grandmother's ritual for releasing ki. Summoning her inner strength, she successfully performs the ritual, unlocking hidden psychic abilities. She shatters her bindings and delivers a devastating kick that sends one of the aliens flying, damaging the UFO in the process. She then forces Turbo Granny's spirit out of occult kun, just as she begins attacking him. Before vanishing, Turbo Granny smugly announces that she has stolen occult kun's genitalia, leaving him cursed unless they confront her in the tunnel. Surviving the UFO's destruction, Momo and occult kun are now convinced that both aliens and ghosts exist. As he prepares to leave, determined to break his curse alone, Momo insists on helping. Touched by her kindness, he apologizes for his earlier behavior, admitting that he's just socially awkward. His words eerily echo those of Ken Takakura, catching Momo off guard. Shaking off the strange feeling, she asks for his name only to be left stunned when he casually replies, Ken Takakura. Willing to accept that his name is the same as her favorite idol, Ken Takakura, Momo insists that he cannot use it around her. Instead, she decides to call him Okarun, a nickname he reluctantly agrees to. With spirits unable to manifest during the daytime, Momo invites Okarun over to her house until nightfall, when they can confront Turbo Granny and attempt to lift his curse. However, as soon as they arrive, Okarun is suddenly engulfed in flames when he tries to pass through the Torii Gate at the entrance. Panicked, Momo quickly hurls him into a nearby river, using her psychic powers to extinguish the fire. Upon investigating, she realizes that the talisman attached to her gate, which is meant to ward off evil spirits, was the cause of his combustion. After removing it, she allows Okarun to pass safely. She then bursts into laughter at his now frizzy, perm-like hair caused by being burned, teasing him about his ridiculous new look. Once inside, Okarun changes into dry clothes, but his mood remains sour as he laments his missing genitals. Annoyed by his complaining, Momo bluntly reminds him that he only has himself to blame, as his reckless approach at school led to Turbo Granny's curse. Okarun, looking dejected, finally confesses the real reason behind his actions. He didn't want to miss the opportunity to make a friend. He admits that he fears Momo could never truly befriend someone like him, reinforcing his insecurity about being alone. And understanding his feelings, Momo reassures him that his real problem is his habit of isolating himself, Not that people don't want to befriend him, she emphasizes that he just needs to open up more and states that she's willing to discuss the paranormal with him if that's what he enjoys. Her kindness moves Okarun, and he nearly tears up, but instead of expressing gratitude, he makes a snide remark to mask his emotions, much to Momo's frustration. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. Confused, Momo frowns as she doesn't recognize the chime. Then, she realizes the alarming truth: her house has two distinct chimes, one for humans and another for evil spirits. Since the sound doesn't belong to the human chime, it can only mean that an evil spirit has entered her home. The realization sends a chill down her spine. Removing the Torii Gate's talisman had left her house vulnerable. Without wasting any time, she and Okarun rush to the backyard, hoping to put the talisman back in place and restore the protective barrier. However, upon reaching the Torii Gate, they discover that the surroundings have drastically changed. A solid wall has mysteriously appeared within the Torii Gate, blocking their escape and preventing them from reattaching the talisman. As they try to figure out what's happening, a thick, ominous black mist begins to surround them. Within moments, they both start experiencing nosebleeds, a telltale sign of the mist's harmful nature. Before they can react, a massive, looming figure emerges from the darkness. The giant creature glares down at them and in a deep, echoing voice accuses them of breaking a promise. Without hesitation, it declares its intention to take their banana organs. Realizing the immediate danger, Momo and Okarun dash away as the giant unleashes powerful shockwave-inducing stomps, shaking the entire area. Okarun quickly identifies the being as the Flatwoods monster based on its eerie appearance, while Momo speculates that it must be connected to the Serpos, given its disturbing fixation on human reproductive organs. As they struggle to evade its relentless attacks, Momo realizes that she can't effectively fight the monster while also suppressing Okarun's curse with her psychic abilities. Seeing this, Okarun proposes a risky plan. If Momo can focus her power on suppressing Turbo Granny's curse only in his head, he might be able to control his possessed body and use her speed to counterattack. Before they can fully discuss the idea, the Flatwoods monster prepares to unleash another devastating shockwave stomp. With no time to hesitate, Momo follows Okarun's instructions, shifting her psychic suppression to his head. The plan works. Okarun undergoes a transformation, gaining full control over Turbo Granny's insane velocity. He swiftly dodges the incoming attack, grabbing Momo and maneuvering both of them at incredible speed. Without wasting a second, he retaliates, using his newly enhanced agility to sink his teeth into the colossal alien's fingers, tearing off chunks of its flesh. However, the intense speed takes a toll on Okarun's human body, causing him to cough up blood. Before he collapses, Momo yanks him out of harm's way just as the Flatwoods monster attempts to crush him underfoot. Regrouping, the two struggle to devise a way to defeat the creature. And Momo, observing its movements, realizes that it fights similarly to a sumo wrestler. This gives her an idea: if they can force it to touch the ground, as prohibited in sumo, they might be able to defeat it. To execute the plan, Momo strategically splits her psychic focus. Using her right hand, she suppresses Okarun's curse just enough to let him target the monster's right leg, allowing him to shatter it with a high-speed attack. Simultaneously, she uses her left hand to pull the creature downward, forcing it into an unbalanced state. The force of their combined efforts results in the disintegration of the monster's right hand. However, the Flatwoods monster quickly regenerates, sprouting an extra set of legs to maintain its balance. It then viciously retaliates, slamming Momo into the wall blocking the Torii Gate. Still struggling to maintain her suppression of Okarun's curse, she finds herself brutally beaten against the wall by the relentless alien. Okarun, horrified, begs her to stop focusing on him and protect herself instead. But Momo, growing increasingly irritated by the monster's underhanded tactics, stubbornly refuses to admit defeat. As the beating continues, Momo grits her teeth and reveals that she had intentionally let the monster attack her. Unbeknownst to the alien, her true goal was to create a crater in the wall big enough for her to reattach the Torii Gate's talisman. With her plan coming together, she seizes her moment, she yanks Okarun toward her, and with a final burst of strength, places the talisman back where it belongs. The moment it is restored, a purging energy erupts from the gate, instantly incinerating the Flatwoods monster and transporting them back to the real world. As the dust settles, Momo sighs in relief, finally able to relax. Noticing Okarun's hair has once again transformed, this time into a wild, unruly mess, she finds it oddly charming. However, just as she begins to bask in the victory, exhaustion overcomes her and she collapses. With Momo now unconscious, her psychic suppression vanishes, and Okarun is immediately overtaken by Turbo Granny's curse once again, leaving him at the mercy of its effects. During a live television broadcast, a well-known psychic named Santa Dodoria performs a clairvoyant reading on a celebrity's profile. However, throughout the session, the celebrity continuously corrects the psychic, exposing his inaccuracies in real time. Despite the public embarrassment, Santa Dodoria remains composed. Later, after the broadcast concludes, he hails a taxi to return home. Yet partway through the journey, he chooses to walk the remaining distance on foot, sensing an ominous presence that makes him fear for the driver's safety should the trip continue. Meanwhile, Momo finds herself in a dire predicament as Turbo Granny prepares to devour her. Just in time, her grandmother arrives to intervene, throwing a brick embedded with a nail and a circular inscription. Upon impact, the malicious spirit is instantly set ablaze. Undeterred, Turbo Granny retaliates, attempting to launch a sneak attack from behind. However, she bursts into flames once more upon approaching Momo's grandmother. Seiko, Momo's grandmother, then reveals her secret. She had drawn a protective barrier around herself using her bat, preventing any evil spirits from reaching her. Additionally, she had also formed another barrier around Turbo Granny, trapping the vengeful entity in place. Unable to flee, Turbo Granny becomes an easy target as Seiko mercilessly beats her with the bat, igniting her every time she gets too close to the barrier's edge. Despite her situation, Turbo Granny warns that if Seiko continues with her intent to kill, Okarun will perish alongside her, as they are now bound together by the curse. However, Seiko, unfazed, declares that she will proceed regardless, deeming Turbo Granny's actions against Momo utterly unforgivable. Upon noticing the presence of a secondary drawn barrier, Turbo Granny begins to panic. Seiko solemnly places a nail within the inscribed circle, bids her farewell to the evil spirit, and erases the first drawn circle with her foot. The moment the line is broken, the flames of the spirit warding ritual engulf Turbo Granny entirely, sealing her fate. Later, Momo regains consciousness in her bed and, still groggy, makes her way to the living room. There, she finds her grandmother engrossed in a television program. Recalling Okarun's predicament, she immediately inquires if her grandmother has seen him, fearing for his safety now that she is no longer suppressing his curse. To her shock, Seiko casually mentions that she had already dealt with the evil spirit. Panic rising, Momo demands further details, but her grandmother, unimpressed by her sudden concern, reminds her of the time she accused her of being a fraud as a spirit medium. Realizing the weight of her past words, Momo hurriedly kneels before her grandmother, offering a heartfelt apology. Pleased by this, Seiko directs her to check the main shrine outside for Okarun. Filled with worry, Momo rushes to the shrine, throwing open the doors in a desperate search. To her relief, she finds Okarun inside, unharmed and overjoyed to see her safe as well. However, instead of expressing her gratitude, Momo, overcome with irritation at the emotional turmoil she just endured, abruptly shuts the doors on him. Okarun, left completely bewildered by her sudden change in demeanor, stares in confusion. As Momo frowns at herself for her reaction, Seiko steps outside, chuckling at the scene. She assures Momo that the shrine's sacred space keeps Okarun's curse dormant, and then teasingly admits that she fabricated his demise solely to provoke a reaction from her. Smirking, she then probes Momo about her feelings for Okarun, which the flustered girl vehemently denies. Once Momo composes herself, she informs her grandmother about the emergence of her psychic powers and Okarun's unique situation. Seiko listens carefully before cautioning them against engaging Turbo Granny any further. She reveals a crucial piece of information: Turbo Granny has recently fused with an earthbound spirit that resides in the tunnel, significantly amplifying her power to an extent that even Seiko herself cannot combat. Despite the warning, Momo adamantly insists on aiding Okarun, declaring that it's the kind of thing Ken Takakura would do. Seiko, amused, momentarily considers drawing comparisons between the boy locked in the shrine and Momo's beloved Ken Takakura, but ultimately decides against it. Instead, she acknowledges Momo's determination and agrees to help her confront Turbo Granny. Seiko devises a strategy, explaining that Momo and Okarun must undergo training before facing Turbo Granny. She proposes a game of tag, wherein they will lure the spirit out of Shono City and weaken her influence in the process. Later that evening, as they are left alone, Okarun, feeling disheartened by his own helplessness during the Flatwoods monster battle, expresses his regrets to Momo. He solemnly vows to become stronger. In response, Momo reassures him that he had shown remarkable bravery and promises to be there for him if he ever needs help. As the conversation winds down, she prepares to grab a futon for Okarun to sleep on, and also agrees to bring him barley tea when he requests water. Meanwhile, in the living room, Seiko watches a news report about Shoma, the celebrity she had performed a clairvoyant reading for earlier. The segment confirms that his secrets have now been exposed, validating Seiko's predictions. Momo, however, dismisses the report as unnecessary gossip. During their training the next day, Momo notices Okarun growing increasingly desperate to use the bathroom. She refuses to let him go alone, reminding him that she must always be present to suppress his curse. Frustrated, Okarun tries to reason with her, but she remains firm. When Seiko asks about Momo's psychic ability, Momo explains that her psychokinesis functions by latching onto visible auras. However, she confesses that her power seemed much stronger when it first manifested. Seiko advises her to train her senses further, encouraging her to close her eyes and rely on touch rather than sight to control Okarun's curse. Momo attempts to follow the instruction but fails when Turbo Granny's influence flares up within Okarun. Unable to hold it any longer, Okarun makes a mad dash for the bathroom, with Momo and her grandmother hurriedly chasing after him. As Momo maintains the curse suppression, while standing in the bathroom doorway, much to Okarun's embarrassment, Seiko suddenly senses an ominous shift. Momo turns to see her grandmother's nose bleeding, and to her horror, she realizes the cause Turbo Granny has appeared in the bathroom. Speaking through Okarun's body, the spirit reveals that her curse has the ability to kill anyone Okarun lays eyes on. She issues an ultimatum demanding Momo face her in the tunnel that very night. Should she refuse, Turbo Granny threatens to start killing people indiscriminately, unwilling to let Momo train for their eventual confrontation. As Turbo Granny departs, the oppressive aura fades, allowing Momo to finally communicate with her grandmother and Okarun again. However, the aftermath is clear. Seiko is bleeding from her nose and ears, and the protective talisman on the wall has been burnt away. Concerned, she asks Momo for a full account of what transpired. Before Momo and Okarun set off for the tunnel that night, Seiko presents them with specially crafted garments designed to protect them from malevolent spirits. She then embraces Momo tightly, pleading for her to return safely. Once they leave, she remains at the shrine, offering a heartfelt prayer to the gods, entrusting their fate to higher powers. As they ride the train toward the tunnel, Momo seethes with rage, her thoughts consumed by Turbo Granny's past attack on her grandmother. Her resolve to exact revenge burns stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Okarun, sitting beside her, keeps his face buried in his hands not because of fear, but due to sheer embarrassment. Dressed in their unusual protective outfits, they have garnered the attention of several passengers, making their already tense journey all the more awkward. Momo and Okarun cautiously step into Turbo Granny's tunnel, devising a plan to take on the malevolent spirit. Momo, convinced this battle will be easier than their last encounter with the Flatwoods monster, is startled when they find an enormous head of Turbo Granny blocking both ends of the tunnel. She attempts an attack using bats controlled through her psychic powers, but Turbo Granny effortlessly crushes them with the mouths in her eyes. Desperate, Momo urges Okarun to wield Turbo Granny's speed, yet Turbo Granny counters by returning Okarun's genitals, stripping him of his powers. Just as she moves in to devour them, Momo remembers her grandmother's strategy to challenge Turbo Granny to a game of tag, exploiting her arrogance regarding her own speed. When Momo throws down the challenge, Turbo Granny, intrigued by the dare, halts her assault and agrees to the game. As the two attempt to flee, Turbo Granny starts counting down from 10 minutes to give them a supposed head start. However, before they can even make it out of the tunnel, Momo is suddenly snatched up as Turbo Granny bizarrely manipulates her counting to reach 10 faster. Enraged, Okarun protests, accusing her of foul play, but Turbo Granny smugly points out that there were no rules dictating how she should count. As panic grips Okarun, the 10-minute countdown reaches its end. With no clear strategy to free Momo, Okarun acts on impulse, biting down on Turbo Granny's breast. Where caught off guard, the spirit struggles to shake him off, hindered by his protective garments. Frustrated, she chooses to fully possess him instead, then turns her attention back to Momo. However, recalling her grandmother's teachings about using her sense of touch, Momo tightens her control over Turbo Granny's aura, trapping her completely within Okarun's body. Turbo Granny, in a desperate attempt to stop her, smashes through the containment, inadvertently freeing Momo. As they celebrate their small victory, their relief is short-lived when the earthbound spirit crab emerges to rescue Turbo Granny, forcing them to flee the tunnel immediately. Momo and Okarun sprint through the town as the earthbound spirit crab gives chase. Utilizing Turbo Granny's abilities in his possessed form, Okarun carries Momo on his back, weaving through the streets at high speed. Since the spirit remains invisible to the public, they appear to be fleeing from nothing. As Okarun reaches his physical limit, Momo quickly devises a plan, directing him to lead the spirit into a hot spring. Aware that boiling water would tighten a crab's muscles, Momo uses her psychic powers to break a pipe, drenching the earthbound spirit crab in scalding water and slowing it down, granting them a brief chance to escape. However, before they can fully flee Shono City, they are ambushed by townspeople under possession. Turbo Granny and the earthbound spirit crab, having recruited spirits from a nearby graveyard, block every possible escape route. Declaring that they will never allow Momo Okarun to leave, the spirits prepare to launch their attack. With no way to avoid the possessed townspeople, Okarun pushes his limits, utilizing Turbo Granny's abilities to blitz through the crowd while carrying Momo. The sheer force of their escape causes them both intense strain, leading Momo to lose her grip and accidentally release Turbo Granny from within Okarun. Turbo Granny retaliates with a brutal kick, sending them crashing down, knocking Okarun unconscious. She then merges with the earthbound spirit crab, turning their game of tag into an all-out hunt. After offering Momo a head start, she mockingly grants her a few minutes to run. However, Momo, undeterred, asserts that she only needs a single second to make her move. Using her psychokinesis, she latches onto the roof of a passing train, allowing it to carry her away. In Turbo, Granny immediately gives chase, closing the gap as the train slows while turning. She soon realizes Momo has led her into a trap, a spirit exercising barrier her grandmother had set up along the railway leading to Kamikoshi City. With Momo restraining her using her psychic abilities, the Turbo Granny infused Earthbound Spirit Crab is fully exorcised upon crossing the barrier. During the exorcism, Momo witnesses several schoolgirls emerging from the Earthbound Spirit Crab's body. With Turbo Granny now defeated, Momo, Okarun, and her grandmother return to the tunnel to pay respects to the spirits. There, Momo's grandmother reveals the tunnel's dark history. It was once the site of young girls' murders, and Turbo Granny, rather than being purely evil, had been comforting the lost spirits who couldn't pass on. Before they leave, she shares a lesson with Momo, the importance of coexistence between the living and the dead, and expresses gratitude that her granddaughter made it out unharmed. Later, back at home, Okarun joins Momo and her grandmother for dinner, though he quickly becomes wary of Momo's grandmother when she jokes about verifying whether his genitals have truly returned. As the meal concludes, Momo and Okarun prepare to part ways. While Okarun hops onto his bike to leave, Momo hesitates over whether goodbye is the right word. At the same time, Okarun, standing by the torii gate, contemplates the same thought. Instead, Momo changes her farewell, telling Okarun that she will see him again tomorrow. This small reassurance brings him comfort, leaving him with a smile as they part ways. The next day at school, Okarun contemplates how to greet Momo upon seeing her again. To his surprise, he finds her waiting outside the entrance, assuming she is expecting someone else. However, Momo walks up to him, questioning why he took so long to arrive. After a lighthearted discussion about aliens, the two head to their respective classes. Okarun, delighted to have made a friend, brushes off the usual harassment from his classmates, while Momo becomes so lost in thought that she barely notices her friends trying to get her attention. This leads them to assume she has reunited with her ex-boyfriend. Eagerly anticipating their next interaction, the two set out to find each other as lunch begins. However, despite unknowingly passing one another multiple times, their search remains fruitless. Seated separately on benches outside, both begin to wonder if the other is deliberately avoiding them due to a misunderstood mistake earlier. As they finally give up, they accidentally collide, their teeth unexpectedly clashing. After reassuring each other that they had both been searching, they dismiss any thoughts of intentional avoidance. Unfortunately, their awkward bump catches the attention of Momo's friends, leading to a heated argument. In any romantic involvement, they unintentionally damage their budding friendship. Disheartened, Okarun retreats to the restroom, contemplating an apology, only to be horrified when he realizes that although he has regained his genitals, his testicles are still missing. In class, Momo, visibly irritated, becomes the center of attention as gossip spreads about her interaction with Okarun. The situation worsens when Okarun approaches her, making a bizarre hand gesture below his waist. Unaware of his predicament and unwilling to engage, Momo coldly asks him to leave. Misinterpreting her reaction, Okarun assumes she is embarrassed to be seen with him and departs. Dejected, one of Momo's friends, shocked by her uncharacteristic behavior, questions whether Okarun is truly her friend. Later that day, Okarun accidentally collides with a female student named Era, who surprises him with her friendly demeanor. While walking home and reflecting on her earlier behavior, Momo spots Okarun with Era and overhears her bragging to her friends about manipulating Okarun's emotions with her fake kindness. Infuriated, Momo discreetly uses her psychic power to drop a basin onto Era's head, leaving her friends bewildered by the sudden incident. She then approaches Okarun with a cheerful demeanor, suggesting they walk home together and throwing a snide remark at Era. On their way, Momo apologizes for her earlier actions, which Okarun forgives, though he quickly shifts the conversation to his missing testicles. As Momo laughs at his dilemma, Siko scolds Okarun for not letting her examine him the previous day. After a brief inspection of his soul, she instructs Momo to fetch a doll and a bowl of water, having discovered that something resides within Okarun. Once the items are retrieved, Siko smacks Okarun's head with a harrison referencing Kenpachi and asks Momo if she noticed any changes. And then Momo reports a shift in Okarun's aura, prompting Siko to order her to extract it when it happens again. Upon doing so, they are startled as a Maneki Neko doll suddenly springs to life and dashes out of the room. Using her psychic abilities, Momo locates its aura and restrains the doll, which furiously demands to be freed. Siko then reveals to Momo and Okarun that the doll is actually Turbo Granny, who confesses that she avoided exorcism by slipping into Okarun at the last second. She declares her intent to seek revenge once her powers return, prompting Momo to scold her for not realizing she is currently powerless. Okarun seizes the opportunity, demanding the return of his stolen parts while threatening her with a talisman. Turbo Granny, however, warns that harming her would mean he will never regain his testicles, an alarming realization for both him and Momo. She then proposes an unsettling deal. If Okarun kills Momo and Seiko, she will return his missing parts. Enraged by the demand, Okarun instinctively taps into Turbo Granny's power, transforming into his cursed form. Seiko quickly explains that although Turbo Granny's consciousness was expelled from Okarun, her power remains within him due to her own reluctance to be freed, an unsettling fact that shocks even Turbo Granny. In response, Seiko repeatedly strikes the yokai with her harrison in frustration. Despite their antagonism, Momo admits she cannot bring herself to hate Turbo Granny after learning about her past kindness toward the lost spirits in the tunnel. She then offers a bargain. She will return Turbo Granny's powers if she helps them locate Okarun's missing testicles. Turbo Granny reluctantly agrees, but regretfully informs them that she has lost them. Momo and Okarun embark on a search for the latter's missing kintama, which Turbo Granny claims are wrapped in a golden layer of her spiritual energy. Having no success in locating them, Turbo Granny speculates that they were taken by a spirit or yokai attracted to their strong life force. She then expresses disinterest in their whereabouts, frustrating Momo and Okarun, who stomp on her in irritation. Upon reporting back, Seiko offers to gather information and warns Okarun to keep Turbo Granny's power in check. The next day at school, a male classmate approaches Okarun, requesting an introduction to Momo due to his familiarity with her. Upon hearing him compliment Momo's cuteness, Okarun suddenly realizes this but suppresses such thoughts, seeing her as just a friend. He then learns from the classmate that a nasty rumor about Momo is circulating, prompting him to grab the boy's shirt, demanding to know who started it. Letting his anger get the best of him, Okarun unintentionally triggers Turbo Granny's power, frightening his classmate. Realizing the situation, he composes himself, apologizes, and returns to his seat. Turbo Granny then reveals she was hiding in his bag, delighted by his display of power. Unwilling to let anyone see her, Okarun rushes out of the classroom to speak with her in private. She tries to convince him to restore her abilities, which he resists. Turbo Granny retreats back into Okarun's bag when Momo approaches. Okarun prepares to tell Momo about Turbo Granny, but suddenly struggles to meet her gaze, now perceiving her as cute because of his classmate's remark. As a result, Momo chases after him in confusion, frustrated by his avoidance, while Turbo Granny seizes the opportunity to wander around the school. Later, Momo, wondering about Okarun's behavior, learns from a friend that he defended her when another student brought up the rumor. Despite this, she remains puzzled as to why he keeps avoiding her. Elsewhere, Era basks in admiration from her classmates, flaunting her beauty while pondering her belief that Momo is a demon. She formed this opinion after witnessing Momo's psychic abilities when a washtub mysteriously fell on her head. Feeling slightly let down that the rumor she spread about Momo hasn't been effective, she clutches one of Okarun's kintama, which she found the previous night, believing it's a divine sign that she is destined to save the world. The night before, Era stumbled upon one of Okarun's kintama when it fell on her head, spotting a mysterious light along the railway. Convinced that fate had led her to it, she took it upon herself to become a savior. In the present, Era's friends bring her the items she requested for her holy mission, a Bible and a cross. When one of them questions her odd behavior, Era points out a strange woman dressed in red outside the school. However, when her friends see nothing, she concludes the figure must be Momo's familiar sent to spy on her. As she attempts to hide, her suspicious behavior draws the attention of two boys, but she quickly covers it up with her usual charm while discreetly signaling her friends to meet later. On the school roof, Momo confronts Okarun, demanding he look at her. As an excuse, he claims he is monitoring Turbo Granny while she eats to ensure she doesn't escape. The talking cat doll smugly declares he wouldn't be able to stop her. Momo then questions why Turbo Granny is even at school and ends up in a heated argument with her, asserting that she has the right to boss her around after their previous fight. Turbo Granny explains she has been searching for the kintama, believing a human may have found it instead of a yokai, which would allow them to perceive spirits and put them in danger. She also mentions spotting a peculiar woman, but chooses to reveal more details after school. Meanwhile, Era debates whether she can handle confronting Momo and her familiar. She then spots the red-clad woman approaching. Later in the corridors, Momo is approached by Era, whom she recalls as the girl she dropped the washtub on. Era requests a private conversation, which Momo accepts to avoid unnecessary conflict. She tells Okarun they'll meet again later and follows Era. After Momo leaves, Turbo Granny warns Okarun about the mysterious woman she previously saw. Following Era into an abandoned building, Momo is suddenly ambushed by Era's two friends, who handcuff and restrain her. Era attempts an exorcism using the Bible and cross. Annoyed, Momo unleashes her psychic power, freeing herself. Seeing Momo's demon wings again, Era pulls out the kintama to assist in the exorcism. Momo recognizes it as Okarun's missing kintama and tries to explain, but Era refuses to listen. When Okarun arrives, Momo informs him that Era possesses one of his kintama and believes she is the mysterious woman. However, Okarun clarifies that Era is actually the target of the real mystery woman, who suddenly appears and snatches Era away. After taking Era, the enigmatic woman claims to be her mother. Okarun attempts to rescue using Turbo Granny's power, but the woman skillfully evades his attacks. Seeing Okarun in danger, Momo tries to pull him away with her psychic power, and the woman repels her with a kick and swallows Okarun whole. She then reveals to Era that she has been waiting over a decade for this reunion since Era was a child and recognized her as her mother. Regaining her footing, Momo demands the woman return Okarun, reminding her of the rules governing yokai-human interactions. Meanwhile, she grows confused by Era's insistence that they should work together to defeat the demon. Turbo Granny, after checking Muko's phone, which she stole, informs Momo that their enemy is Acrobatic Silky, a yokai in a red dress renowned for her agility. Enraged by Era labeling her a monster, Acrobatic Silky swallows her next, blaming Momo for Era's actions. In distress, Momo seeks Turbo Granny's help, only to learn the doll is powerless without her abilities. Acrobatic Silky ensnares Momo with her hair, violently flinging her around until she demands an apology. Momo refuses, resulting in her being swallowed as well. Acrobatic Silky then cries out in anguish, wondering where her baby is. Turbo Granny confronts her, warning that harming the children will bring dire consequences, as her being a Maneki Nico doll means she can grant fortune to others. But just as predicted, Momo, using Era's lighter rosary, sets Acrobatic Silky's ingested hair ablaze from inside, forcing the yokai to spit them out. Freed at last, Momo and Okarun prepare to launch their counterattack. Acrobatic Silky pursues Momo and Okarun as they struggle to keep an unconscious Era away from her grasp. Despite the crowded building, Okarun, in his Turbo Granny form, follows Momo's command to carry Era, luring Acrobatic Silky with a calculated plan. After overpowering Momo, Acrobatic Silky closes in on Okarun, nearly prying Era from him. However, as she attempts to snatch Era, her damaged hair becomes ensnared in the building's beams, playing into Momo's strategy. While Acrobatic Silky struggles to free herself, Momo grips her legs with psychic power and urges Okarun to attack using Turbo Granny's abilities. Caught off guard by his lack of a ready attack, Okarun instead exploits his speed, launching himself at Acrobatic Silky and sending her crashing down. Victorious, Momo and Okarun retrieve the Kintama from Era, but Turbo Granny grimly informs them that Era has died. After checking her pulse, Okarun confirms Turbo Granny's claim Era is lifeless, having perished after being swallowed by a yokai. Despite Turbo Granny's insistence that nothing can be done, Momo and Okarun desperately attempt to revive her, performing chest compressions, CPR, and urging Turbo Granny to call an ambulance. As Acrobatic Silky rises again, they remain on guard but are shocked when she offers to save Era by transferring her own aura into the girl. Momo is skeptical of Acrobatic Silky's motives, prompting the yokai to rip out her own mouth as a pledge not to harm Era again. Still wary, Momo orders Okarun to stay alert in Turbo Granny form while she hesitantly agrees to the plan, using her psychic abilities to channel Acrobatic Silky's aura into Era. During the process, Momo glimpses into Acrobatic Silky's past, revealing her as a devoted mother who cherished raising her daughter, only to take her own life in sorrow after losing her child. In a crowd overwhelmed by forgotten memories, the grieving mother encounters a young girl Era who mistakenly calls her mother, then returns to her father, who reminds her that her real mother is gone and encourages her to stay strong. Acrobatic Silky, convinced she was Era's mother in a past life, develops an intense desire to protect her, ultimately transforming into a yokai. Momo, moved by Acrobatic Silky's tragic past, weeps, prompting Okarun to suspect foul play and prepare for a fight. However, Momo stops him, revealing that Era has miraculously been revived. As Era awakens, Acrobatic Silky expresses regret before her body begins to fade. Turbo Granny explains to Momo that, burdened by unresolved regrets and stripped of her aura, Acrobatic Silky will not pass on, but instead be forgotten. Amid this sorrow, Acrobatic Silky recalls her child and mourns her failures as a mother. Wishing for her to find peace, Era embraces her, affectionately calls her mother, and expresses her love, allowing Acrobatic Silky to achieve nirvana. Era then hopes that Acrobatic Silky and her real child will reunite in a better place beyond. Following the battle with Acrobatic Silky, Era joins Momo, Okarun, Siko, and Turbo Granny for a meal at the ayase house. Momo, realizing that Era holds animosity toward her after she dropped a basin on her during their first meeting, admits she went too far and apologizes. However, she insists that Era must also apologize to Okarun for mocking him at the time. Era, however, clarifies that she bears no grudge for the basin incident, but instead perceives Momo as a demon and her sworn enemy. This leads to a heated exchange, with Momo firmly denying Era's claim. Era then turns her attention to Okarun and Siko, arguing that Okarun's transformation into Turbo Granny and Seiko's youthful appearance prove Momo and her companions are demons. The argument escalates, ending with Era vowing to confront Momo again, to which Momo confidently accepts the challenge. Before leaving, Era asks Okarun why he saved her if he is supposedly a demon. Okarun replies that it is natural to help others, which surprises Era, making her wonder if he still retains his humanity. She then tells him she will return to free him from Momo's influence, blushing as she departs, leaving Momo stunned. Later, Okarun joyfully has his ball restored to its rightful place during a baseball game between Turbo Granny and Seiko. The next day at school, Momo suggests meeting Okarun on the rooftop to discuss the whereabouts of his other ball. However, Okarun declines, stating he intends to use that time and the period afterward to finish a report. Though she agrees to let him be, Momo instead spends lunch with Miko and Muko, but starts suspecting Okarun is hiding something from her. Miko suggests it might be related to a girl. Although Momo dismisses the idea, her thoughts drift to Era after their previous encounter. While heading out to grab drinks for herself and Miko, Momo becomes unsettled and contemplates checking in on Okarun. Unexpectedly, at the school courtyard, Momo is left speechless when she sees Okarun on top of Era. Outside the school, Okarun privately trains under Seiko's guidance to better prepare for his and Momo's next battle against a paranormal foe. Suddenly, Era appears, attempting to confess her feelings by kissing him. Shocked, Okarun recoils and demands to know why she thought this was appropriate. Era responds that she is following guidance from her father's books. As the romantically inexperienced Era tries again, Okarun frantically avoids her, causing them to tumble, with him landing on top of her. To his horror, Momo witnesses the scene and misinterprets it. As disappointed, she storms off to class, ignoring Okarun's attempts to explain, furious that he had lied about wanting to finish a report. Later, during a class lesson on mantis shrimp, Momo remains distracted by the incident, leading Miko and Muko to humorously suspect she is possessed by the spirit of the mantis shrimp. Meanwhile, Okarun hopes to reconcile with Momo soon. Okarun is then stunned to find the classroom floor flooded with water and the entire room mysteriously empty. As he ventures into the hallway, he encounters Era, who assumes Momo is behind the strange phenomenon. Okarun, however, informs her that he has experienced this eerie environment before. Elsewhere, Momo realizes she cannot open the windows to escape and wonders if Okarun is trapped in a similar predicament, was it only for her thoughts to quickly shift to irritation over him. Suddenly, she hears an approaching noise and turns to see a distant snake-like creature. Momo hides but accidentally disturbs the water, prompting the creature to unleash a devastating blast that obliterates her classroom. Luckily, she dodges the attack and begins to worry about Okarun's safety as the creature departs. Meanwhile, Okarun, Era, startled by the commotion, prepare for a confrontation. Recalling a similar encounter with the Flatwoods monster, Okarun deduces that their only means of escape is by defeating the alien responsible for the anomaly. Their theory is soon confirmed when a crab-headed alien appears and launches an assault. Okarun swiftly transforms into Turbo Granny form, pulls Era out of harm's way, and urges her to move to safety while he battles the alien. However, Okarun is quickly overpowered by psychokinesis and reverts to his normal state when the Serpos approach him, preventing Era from intervening. They curiously question how she managed to enter their void, and the Serpos then declare their intention to extract Okarun's reproductive organs to harness the supernatural power he displayed last time. Okarun, realizing his abilities were tied to a curse back then, finds himself unable to transform. As the Serpos prepare to cut him open with giant scissors, Era unexpectedly manifests a form similar to acrobatic Silky and rescues Okarun, using her hair as a weapon to strike back. With newfound confidence, Era boldly proclaims that she is the chosen one and demands the Serpos release Okarun. After repelling the Serpos away from Okarun, Era checks on him but grows flustered seeing him nude, misinterpreting it as his desire to deepen their relationship. A Serpo, realizing Era possesses superhuman traits akin to Okarun, deduces this explains her ability to enter dimensional space. He orders the crab-headed alien to engage her in close combat while he attacks from afar with psychokinesis. Era dodges the crab alien's punches, kicks him into the ceiling, and turns to the Serpo. However, he pins her against the wall using psychic force, expressing excitement at discovering another superhuman to harvest. After freeing himself, the crab alien launches Era through a classroom. Okarun intervenes to shield her, but once again, the Serpo's awesome zone negates his yokai powers. The crab alien then pummels Okarun, who manages to counter just as Momo arrives to disrupt the Serpo psychokinesis. The aliens react in shock, lamenting their failed attempt to eliminate her. While Okarun is glad to see Momo, she scolds him for his involvement with Era and for being indecent. Era, displeased that Momo saved her, proposes they team up to fight the Serpos. Momo is stunned by Era's acrobatic Silky form, and Era boldly declares she won't give up Ken. Hearing Okarun's real name, Momo, flustered, momentarily loses focus, allowing the Serpos to reassert control. Seizing the opportunity, they inject their reluctant subordinate with a serum, enhancing his abilities. Now resembling a mantis shrimp, the crab alien barrages Okarun and Era with shockwave punches. And Susanoo, regaining composure, demands Era not to use Okarun's real name, countering the Serpo's awesome zone once more. The Serpo redirects the crab alien to target Momo. Okarun and Era transform, working together to outmaneuver him. Though effective, Momo warns them about fighting too closely. Era misreads this as jealousy, which Momo denies, while Okarun agrees with her advice, but unintentionally disrupts her focus by making a Ken Takakura-like remark. Meanwhile, the crab alien laments the Serpo's plan to cut his pay for poor performance. Their battle is interrupted when the water level suddenly rises, submerging the battlefield. Upon surfacing, Momo realizes the walls and ceiling are water and is dismayed to see the creature she encountered earlier swimming above them. Recognizing the entity as Nessie, Momo and Okarun quickly retreat as it attacks a Serpo. Below, the enhanced crab alien generates a shockwave punch at Era, launching her toward the ceiling, risking drowning her. Boasting about his increased power underwater, he soon reveals his lack of gills, struggling for air. Seeing a chance, Okarun transforms into Turbo Granny, hoping to leverage his leg strength, but sinks due to Turbo Granny's inability to swim. Reverting, he and Momo continue evading attacks. Okarun instructs Momo to assist Era while he distracts the enemy. Momo objects, leading to an argument about the incident with Era, and sensing her hidden frustration, Okarun urges her to admit it bothered her and give him a chance to explain later, emphasizing that she is the one person he doesn't want to misunderstand him. He then shields Momo from an incoming shockwave punch. This prompts Momo to use her powers on Okarun, turning him into a makeshift speedboat. Riding him, she launches Okarun to reach Era, then expels water from Era's lungs, reviving her. Realizing their clothing hinders movement due to water resistance, Momo strips to her underwear and insists Era do the same, despite her protests. Below, the crab alien spots a swimming Serpo and requests more time to fight, but is horrified to discover it is merely a severed head having been killed by Nessie. A Serpo then appears, intending to fuse with both the crab alien and Nessie using body cables. As Momo, Okarun, and Era prepare to face their enemies, they suddenly spot the fused Serpo Dover demon Nessie beneath them. It fires water blasts, forcing them to retreat. Once the attack subsides, they notice it absorbing water through its gills, signaling the need to recharge. Era uses her acrobatic silky hair to propel herself forward, delivering a flying kick, but the creature blocks it and retaliates with shockwave punches, and boasting its dominance in close combat due to the crab alien's arms. After Momo and Okarun retrieve Era, they struggle to devise a counterattack until Momo formulates a plan inspired by Okarun's observation about the mantis shrimp arms. Unfortunately, they are soon scattered by another shockwave punch. Deeming Momo the greatest threat, the Serpodover demon Nessie readies a lethal strike. However, as it attacks, Momo manipulates the water level, exposing its arms to external pressure, causing them to tear apart. In retaliation, the creature lunges at Momo, biting her and diving deep to unleash another water blast to slice her in two. Before it can, Era intercepts, restraining the beast with her hair, allowing Okarun to use it as a launch track to propel himself forward. He splits the fused entity apart while simultaneously catching Momo. Following the Serpodover demon Nessie's defeat, Momo and Okarun escape the void space, initially relieved to be on solid ground. However, their relief quickly turns to horror as they realize they are standing in the school hallway in their underwear. Overcome with embarrassment, they flee alongside Era in a panic. Momo, Okarun, and Era are interrogated by Queen, who questions whether their exposure in their underwear could be considered bullying. The trio, still embarrassed, struggles to answer. Before the conversation can continue, a staff member interrupts, informing the nurse of an incoming phone call, leaving the three alone. Overcome with distress from their public humiliation, they take a moment to process the situation. Momo soon learns from Era that she unknowingly activated Acrobatic Silky's powers during their battle with the Serpo, attributing this to her link with the yokai's aura. Okarun, deep in thought, speculates that this connection might make her a prime target for extraterrestrials, believing that beings from beyond Earth could be interested in humans with yokai abilities like himself and Era. He theorizes that they might be seeking individuals like them for technological purposes, perhaps even in relation to his missing Kintama. However, despite his detailed explanation, Momo and Era fail to fully grasp his reasoning, dismissing his concern. Still preoccupied with their recent embarrassment, Momo overhears Era planning to place the blame on her. Rather than arguing, Momo agrees, wanting to avoid the hassle of making up a different excuse. Satisfied, Era leaves with her friends after they come to pick her up. With only Momo and Okarun remaining, the atmosphere shifts. Momo turns to him, demanding an explanation for what happened with Era during lunch. Caught off guard, Okarun confesses that he fell on Era while attempting to push her away when she tried to kiss him. Suspicious, Momo questions why they were in a secluded spot. And embarrassed, Okarun admits that he had been secretly training to become stronger and wanted to keep it from her so he could impress her later. Amused, Momo playfully presses him, teasing him to elaborate on why he wants to appear cool in her eyes. Unable to handle the teasing, Okarun hurriedly prepares to leave, reassuring Momo that he won't hold her accountable for the incident like Era did. Just as he's about to go, Momo hesitates, eager to respond. Before she can express herself, her friends Miko and Muko arrive, having heard about the incident and demanding an explanation. Momo refuses to elaborate, prompting Miko to speculate that Momo and Era had a dispute over okarun while in their underwear. Mortified, Momo strongly denies the claim, though Miko and Muko remain unconvinced. Meanwhile, in Class 2D, Era finds herself being comforted by her classmates. She feigns innocence, pretending to be a victim, enjoying how the situation favors her. However, her satisfaction quickly turns to discomfort when she overhears her classmates bad-mouthing Momo, accuse her of harassing Era, using the spreading rumors to paint Momo as a terrible person. So overwhelmed with guilt, Era abruptly confesses to fabricating the entire story, desperately pleading with them to stop speaking ill of Momo. Her sudden admission leaves the class in shock as Era hurriedly leaves the room, unable to bear their reactions. Outside the school, Era sits alone, reflecting on her confession. Before she can collect her thoughts, Momo approaches, questioning whether Era truly followed through with blaming her. Era hesitates before admitting she did, but Momo sees through her lie, having already noticed Era's isolation. Frustrated, Era tries to deflect, but before the conversation can escalate, the Dover demon suddenly appears before them. The creature, speaking cryptically, mutters about his duty to support his family. Sensing a potential threat, Momo and Era prepare for battle, but their instincts are soon proven unnecessary as the Dover demon collapses before them, bleeding an odd white fluid. Following a dream about his son, the Dover demon awakens to find himself in the ayase household. As he regains consciousness, he realizes he is being observed by Momo, Okarun, Seiko, and Era. Momo excitedly tells her grandmother that his presence confirms the existence of extraterrestrial life. However, Seiko remains skeptical, brushing off the claim and mistakenly identifying the creature as a kappa. As they provide medical attention to the injured being, Era nervously asks what their next course of action should be, wary that the Dover demon might try to deceive them again. Suddenly, the Dover demon shifts in bed, putting the group on high alert. Momo warns him against making any reckless moves, reminding him that Seiko is present and more than capable of handling any situation. The tension eases when he looks down and notices a plate of curry placed beside him. Momo informs him that they prepared it for him despite being unsure if it aligns with his dietary needs. Touched by their kindness and the care they provided, the Dover demon becomes overwhelmed with emotion, breaking down into tears. Moved by their compassion, he swears to them that he will never pose a threat again. During dinner with Momo, Okarun, Seiko, Era, and Turbo Granny, the Dover demon reveals his tragic plight. His son is gravely ill and requires expensive blood transfusions, forcing him to engage in dangerous outlaw activities to secure money. Struck by his story, Okarun immediately offers to sell his kintama to assist with the costs, shocking the group. Momo quickly interjects, explaining that such a solution would be short-lived and wouldn't cover the ongoing financial burden of daily transfusions. However, Okarun remains determined, insisting that he wants to help in any way he can. Sarah, supporting him, promises to retrieve the kintama once it is sold, but Momo strongly advises against her getting involved. Despite Okarun's generous offer, the Dover demon ultimately refuses, stating that he does not wish to burden them any further. Just as he prepares to leave, Seiko suddenly stops him, recognizing the scent of his blood. After a brief pause, she hands him a cart of milk. The Dover demon, surprised, acknowledges that milk is an equivalent substitute for blood among his species. Realizing this, Seiko proposes seeking out a farmer willing to donate a cow, providing the Dover demon with a long-term solution for his son. As he boards his ship with the cow being loaded onto it, the Dover demon expresses deep gratitude to the group, swearing to never forget their kindness and promising to repay them in the future. Not long after, Momo, Okarun, and Era find themselves kneeling before Seiko, pleading for her to buy them new school uniforms. Amused by their desperation, agrees to buy uniforms for Okarun and Era at no cost. However, when it comes to Momo, she imposes a condition: Momo must perform an impression of Hiroshi Abe to earn hers. Seiko, having noticed Momo's tendency to exploit the kindness of adults, sees this as a fitting challenge. Annoyed but left with no choice, Momo reluctantly complies. Just as she finishes, Seiko orders her to answer the door while still doing the impression. With a sigh, Momo opens the door only to be left in stunned silence. Standing before her is Jiji, her childhood friend and first crush. At the same time, Okarun, still inside, listens in shock as Seiko casually reveals this crucial piece of Momo's past. Upon seeing Jiji again, Momo is stunned while Okarun observes his presence, perceiving an air of resilience about him. However, both he, Momo, and Era find Jiji's sudden burst of enthusiasm at Momo's reaction to be rather unimpressive. After Seiko welcomes Jiji into her home, Momo is shocked to hear from her grandmother that Jiji will be staying with them. This revelation surprises Okarun as well, while Era misinterprets Jiji's arrival as Momo gathering allies for an impending conflict, prompting her to depart with a pledge to oppose her, leaving Momo exasperated with both Era and Jiji. Okarun prepares to leave, but first complies with Momo's request to bid her farewell, mimicking her earlier words, which leaves them both flustered. Momo seeks clarification from Seiko about Jiji moving in. Seiko reiterates that his parents are hospitalized, and she expresses delight at his compliments during dinner. While washing dishes together, Jiji apologizes for teasing Momo in their childhood and confesses that he has developed the ability to perceive spirits. Shocked, Momo asks if he has encountered a golden orb, but realizing his confusion, retracts her question. Jiji then recounts being tormented by a vengeful spirit at home, explaining that every exorcist hired following his parents' illness ended up tragically taking their own lives. Left with no alternative, he turned to Seiko for aid after the exorcist deemed her his final hope. After recounting his plight, Jiji apologizes for dragging Momo into his troubles. Momo reassures him, expressing confidence in her grandmother's ability to defeat the spirit. However, Seiko declares that Momo must handle the task herself, as her own powers are limited to Kamigo City, and speculates that Jiji's spiritual sight may be linked to Okarun's Kintama. She also offers to buy Momo new uniforms. After transferring to Momo's school, Jiji introduces himself to his classmates, quickly transitioning into flirtatious banter with a female student. He is assigned a seat next to Momo, who does her best to ignore him, alongside Miko and Muko, with whom he quickly becomes acquainted. Jiji informs Momo's friends that he now lives with her and embellishes their relationship as affectionate, irritating Momo to the point where she strangles him. Meanwhile, Okarun worries that if Momo and Jiji grow closer, she may cut ties with him since Jiji was her first crush. To distract himself, he secretly trains at lunch. His focus is broken when Momo unexpectedly joins him, determined to prevent another misunderstanding like the one with Era. As Okarun lifts weights, Momo offers to feed him, catching him off guard. Just as he considers accepting, Jiji interrupts, handing Momo her favorite yogurt, delighting her. Struggling to watch Momo enjoy Jiji's company, Okarun silently decides to distance himself from her. As he walks away, he spots an anatomical model sprinting toward them and quickly warns Momo. Alarmed, she readies herself to intervene, but Jiji pulls her out of harm's way. When the anatomical model leaps over them, Momo notices a glimmering object attached to it, suspecting it to be Okarun's missing Kintama. She attempts to stop it, but ends up being dragged along by its momentum, forcing Okarun to chase after them. Okarun shifts into his Turbo Granny form to pursue Momo and Jiji, as Momo struggles to gain control over the speeding anatomical model. The model gains distance by leaping across rooftops. Momo attempts to use her psychic abilities to grab Okarun, but unintentionally hurls herself and Jiji toward an oncoming bus. Okarun intervenes in time, rescuing them and carrying both on his back. While airborne, Momo reveals to Jiji that the creature he believes kidnapped them is actually Okarun in his transformed state, leaving him stunned. Together, Okarun and Jiji aid Momo in pulling back the anatomical model. In an effort to escape, it disassembles itself and successfully evades capture. However, it leaves behind its heart, allowing Momo to track it by following its wails of agony as she strikes it. The trio eventually tracks the anatomical model to a junkyard. Momo reassures it that they mean no harm, expressing a desire to inspect the golden sphere attached to it. Suddenly, a female voice calls out to the anatomical model, addressing it as Taro. Overjoyed, Taro rushes toward the garbage heap to rescue the female anatomical model, Hana, whom he has longed to see, confessing his love despite her protest for him to leave her behind. Witnessing this, Okarun reflects on Taro's emotions toward Hana and begins to draw parallels with his own feelings for Momo, causing him to blush in realization. After bringing Hana to the ayase residence, Okarun drops to his knees alongside Momo and Jiji, pleading with Seiko to let her stay. Seiko initially suggests Hana live at Okarun's house, but he insists the ayase home is the best option. Momo reminds Seiko that they already let Turbo Granny stay, annoying the talking cat at the comparison to an anatomical model. Regarding Taro, Momo explains that he returned to the school science lab, agreeing to stay only if he can visit Hana occasionally. She clarifies that the shiny ball he had was just a Christmas ornament, not Okarun's Kintama. After relentless pleading from the trio, Seiko agrees under the condition that Hana's relationship with Taro doesn't disturb the neighbors. She then heads to the kitchen to make dinner, instructing Momo to set the table. While setting up, Jiji comments on her and Okarun's impressive powers. After removing a piece of lint from Momo, he playfully engages her in conversation, making her smile. Seeing this, Okarun recalls Taro's confession to Hana and feels compelled to act. He vaguely tells Momo he's making a stand, leaving her confused, then starts singing around Jiji. This prompts Jiji to join in, irritating Momo as they disrupt her task. Seiko yells at them to stop kicking up dust and instructs Momo to pack her undergarments, as she will be staying at Jiji's house for the weekend to cleanse the curse. Okarun is shocked, assuming they'll be alone, but Momo reassures him she planned to invite him for support. Hearing this, Okarun resolves to finish the mission quickly so Jiji can return home. Late at night, Taro dashes out of the school, eager to see Hana. In his haste, he startles students performing a seance and gets hit by a truck en route to the ayase home. Meanwhile, Momo waits with Hana, reassuring her that Taro will come and promising to stay by her side until he does. By morning, Taro finally arrives, apologizing for his delay, explaining he had to reassemble himself after the accident. As Momo wakes from dozing off, she catches sight of Taro kissing Hana and is thanked for watching over her. Taro plans to visit Hana daily. Meanwhile, Jiji lies awake, unable to sleep, haunted by the lingering image of the spirit lurking in his home. After finishing a card game on the train ride to Jiji's village, Okarun grows uneasy watching Momo happily chat with Jiji, who has just given her favorite snacks. Trying to ignore his jealousy, Okarun focuses on reclaiming his kintama, accidentally blurting it out when Momo senses his discomfort, amusing her at his tunnel vision. Jiji misinterprets it as a dirty joke, but Momo quickly clears it up. As the two continue chatting, Okarun tries to regain attention by mentioning the Tushinoko. Momo is briefly intrigued, but Jiji then brings up a village shrine dedicated to it, stealing the spotlight. Determined not to be outdone, Okarun mentions a shrine for a kappa. Jiji, curious, asks if the cryptid Nessie could exist, leading them into an engaging conversation. To his surprise, Okarun enjoys talking with Jiji, who expresses admiration for his knowledge as a friend. Noting Jiji calling him a friend, Okarun awkwardly reacts, making Momo blush at his Ken Takakura quote. He wonders why he struggles to dislike Jiji. Upon arrival, Momo's eyes light up at the hot spring village. Jiji explains the springs are linked to his father's volcano research, which led to their move. Curious, Momo asks about eruption risks and is reassured that the volcano has been dormant for 200 years. After climbing a steep staircase, they reach the Enjoji house. Sensing nothing unusual, Momo suggests resting. Though exhausted, Okarun notices something in the woods but dismisses it as Momo urges him inside. But unbeknownst to them, a group watches from the forest shadows. After searching for paranormal signs, Momo concludes the spirit is hiding due to weak energy, meaning an easy exorcism. Deciding to visit the hot springs while waiting, she leaves Okarun with Jiji, who invites him to play soccer. As they kick the ball around, Jiji casually asks if Okarun has feelings for Momo, shocking him. Okarun claims he respects her, prompting Jiji to list Momo's qualities, sparking a friendly debate over who likes her more. Meanwhile, Momo relaxes in the hot spring, wondering if Okarun is bonding with Jiji as his first male friend. Unbeknownst to her, men are secretly watching. While Jiji playfully strangles Okarun to make him admit defeat, Okarun interrupts, pointing out a strange structure connected to the house. At the hot spring, Momo feels lightheaded and decides to leave. As she's about to exit, a group of men block her path, claiming the rusted sign states it's a mixed bath. One man talking about gators preying on women in hot springs implies they will act the same and slowly closes in. Momo tries summoning her powers but is too weak, quickly grabbed and forced underwater. Meanwhile, Jiji smashes through a wall with a sledgehammer, revealing a room covered in talismans. He and Okarun stare in shock, realizing the house holds a deeper secret. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic content. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't miss out on the next video. There's always more fun, surprises, and challenges ahead. Until next time, stay awesome and keep exploring.